So I think this is actually a relatively, I don't know, a bit more of an exciting project to work on than the last two. You know, first one being fairly simple residential, not so surprising. Second one being fairly plain Jane multi residential. This one we're going to be in the city. Things are significantly different when we're in the city. There's far more interests involved. There's far more consideration of your the interplay between the public and private development. So you've got to be thinking a lot more along those lines of what council is going to want to achieve in that particular space, and accommodating for that public interaction. So our site, number 288 North Terrace in the city, is Ayres Houses. Does everybody know this site? No, not everyone. So yeah, this is a highly fictitious scenario. There's certainly no way that we'd be allowed to demolish Ayres House and build a building there in reality. But I guess that's the benefit of doing stuff at TAFE. You get to work with some fictitious scenarios that are a bit more exciting. But suspend belief there. We've demolished Ayres House, and we're going to replace it with a 3-story commercial building with retail office showroom down the bottom, and then offices above that. So an open plan office area on level 1, and then individual offices on level 2. So I'll quickly show you the sketch plans for those. So those sketch plans these are available on the Learn site as well. So this is the building that's going to replace Ayres House there in that location. So retail office showroom down the bottom, open plan office, and then individual offices at the top. You get to choose and have a bit of creative license to think, what sort of retail can we do in that location? What are we likely to do? And there's been some interesting ideas put forward in the past. So one of them has been like electric vehicle showroom, things like that. So this is it as we've got it. The way that we're approaching this project is that another firm has taken on the design and application to get it through council, and they weren't successful with it, and the client has now come to us to see if we can organise that and get that through council. So we've got this previous design, but there's going to be changes made to it. You've got to bring everything up to being compliant, but also bring it up to a level that's suitable for the site and something that the Adelaide City Council will want to have on that site. So it's about being a little bit more proactive and looking for what they want in that area, as well as meeting things like just the basic requirements for toilets and car parking, access and egress, emergency exits. You will also have to look at things like other safety infrastructure, such as fire extinguishers, lighting, exit signage, things like that. So there's a bit more compliance that's going to have to be worked through, and also look at things as to whether we want to go down the path of using sprinklers in this building or not. So we're going to have to, and of course you're going to be looking at paths of travel and so on, exit distances, things like that. So a lot of that's going to be fairly familiar from Project 2, those exit distances. However, it is a different classification of building. So within our procedure document says we're classification 6D. So for where do we have it? So for the ground level, classification 6D. So we've got our building classifications 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and those building classifications are then broken up into subsections. So our subsection for this is a showroom, class 6D, and then class 5 offices above that. So in terms of fire safety, you always have, when you've got multiple classifications, you always have to go for the make the whole building compliant to the highest or the most stringent of any of those classifications. And it's also going to be a guide as to the car parking you'll be needing as well. But the main driver of the car parking for this, although it says in here that we get our numbers from D 1.13 in the NCC, where does it say that? Anyhow, I won't find it right now. Our main driver for the decision around car parking has got to come from the council and the council's requirements for those car parkings, and also from reference to AS 2890. So first port of call, as with any project, is work out what the zoning is and work out what the policy area is. And that's actually, I'll give you a heads up on that. That's a bit interesting in regards to this project, determining what the policy area for this one is, because there's an issue with the council maps that relate to this one. So if you go into Planning SA, get the zoning maps, you can see that there's policy area 13 adjacent that on the adjoining map, and then when you go to the map that has this particular allotment on it, there is no reference to policy area 13, but we see other policy areas surrounding it. The only inference I can gain from that is that it is actually that policy area 13. So I'll give you that one because it's not not actually clearly shown on the maps. So we've got that, but you're going to have to work out what sort of zoning we are. And yeah, and for once we'll be working with the zoning which is not purely residential. So we've got to be thinking about commercial zonings, and we're designing for a public space. So and that leads me into talking about this locality and what we know about this locality. So if you do have a bit of spare time, I do encourage you to drive past this place or walk past there or so on the weekend if you get that chance, because it'll give you an idea of what's happening in this area. There's a lot happening there right now. Does everybody know this site across the road?
I know this area, but I'm not sure where exactly.
You got the old raw there?
Yeah. So we're just across from the old Royal Adelaide Hospital. I'll bring up the Google Maps for it. So here I've dropped the person in there, pretty much just straight across. That's standing at the front boundary of the, or actually standing in the middle of the road, but looking back at the old Royal Adelaide Hospital site. So if you go onto Renewal SA, you can get some updates about what the vision is for that site and what's going to be happening. In a nutshell, it's meant to be approximately 70% for public use and public access. So the master plan for the repurposing of that site is primarily public, and it's to be primarily open to the Botanic Gardens. So it's about creating that connectivity between this site and the adjoining Botanic Gardens, getting more greenery in there, getting public facilities such as cafes and things to make that a far more vibrant area. There is also other development happening around this space. Has anybody seen the new Botanic High School that's gone in behind there?
It's turning.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't been inside the very impressive looking high school, but so there's been a great deal of money and backing and infrastructure go to develop that section there. So that's just in behind the Royal Adelaide Hospital. So with a high school in there, there's still going to be a lot of traffic through here. with the upgrading of the old Royal Adelaide Hospital as primarily public space with a lot of greenery, once again, a lot of foot traffic, and we've got the new tram stop, which has just been built here as well. So that, and if we head back to our overall here, so we can see that this is the new tram stop which has been built there, and that's sort of in anticipation of the reactivation of this area here, and you know, high school students and whatever heading down here, and universities here. But also that tram stop links up with Rundle Street as well via Paxton Walk and Vaughan Place. So has anybody ever walked down through there before?
I think I've been down
Yeah.
once or twice.
Yeah. So on Rundle Street, this is where lots of cafes and things. That's the Exeter Hotel, and you've got a few different hotels around that spot there. And I don't know if the cinema is still. Oh, I think maybe that cinema is still operational. But yeah, other cinemas and eateries and things around through there, and then that links up with North Terrace there. So that's a fairly busy walkway, and with that tram stop there, it'll be even busier as well. So that, and I'll see if I can I'll see if I can go onto Google Maps and drop and get the person in on Paxton Walk there. We might be able to do that. Cool. So that Paxton Walk, that's slightly elevated. So this is our site just here. And I'll see if I can go through that a little bit. Oh. No, I can't move. Oh, yeah, there we go. Move through it a little bit more. So this is the historic Ayres House that we've demolished, and we'll be rebuilding on this site. So from that Paxton Walk, it is a little bit elevated. Currently, it is really quite open between that walkway and the site, and council would want to be maintaining that to a degree. So we've got to think about our landscaping and our plantings and the treatment of the site to be part public, part private use. So have that public interaction. So currently there's a great deal of interaction between that walkway and the site. Other notable things. Oh, went a long way up East Terrace there. Okay, head back down to where we are. So this is just around the corner from our site. So if we turn left here and head up there, so that's the old Royal Adelaide Hospital there. Our building is just there. You notice on this corner there's the Botanic Hotel. There's a significant incorporation of greenery. With this site, we've got other restaurants back in behind that as well. And then, of course, directly across the road, we've got the Botanic Gardens. So this is our site here with the bluestone wall and the red brick capping on the top. Just adjacent our site, we've also got these historic row houses as well. And we have to think about some of those adjoining uses and adjoining architectural styles in thinking how do we produce something which ties in with what we're doing here. So certainly in such a prominent location within the city, being on the right on the edge of the city and on the entrance to the city from the northeast, we have to be thinking about high-end attractive materials. We have to be thinking about the retention of greenery, plenty of plantings, but being smart about those plantings, and also the use of materials and finishes and colours and things like that that will tie in well with the surrounding development. So we've So we've got a bit of historic development there. The buildings of the Royal Adelaide Hospital site, the historic buildings on that site are going to be retained, and then there are other buildings that are going to be built there. So there is still a lot of tying in with traditional development there, but I think being that we're building a new building with a curtain wall glazing facade, it's not about us trying to imitate or replicate any of those buildings there, but to do something that's complementary, something that is obviously modern and high end, but complements the surrounding development. So then, adjacent our site, we've got this building. Oh, hang on. Flick it back around. Just want to go just a little bit.
I think if you hold the mouse on the screen. And
Oh,
move, you
okay.
should be able to-
Yeah. Oh, yes. Move it small amounts. Thank you. Yeah. So we've got this building. It's got a few cheap eateries and an IGA up those steps. There, office buildings above that, and I guess it's not a particularly high end sort of construction. That happened. I think would have been actually it was before year 2000. Would have been really late 90s. That place there was built. But it's used a lot of red brick to sort of replicate what was in the area. I don't think it's particularly sensitive approach to the locality, but it got through council. And I guess that and if you were to be doing something which is possibly a little less sensitive to the locality, more in keeping with offices and whatever, I guess you've got that precedent to argue with council. Well, look, you allowed that building to be put there, etc. So you've got that. But I think it's a good opportunity for you to be, I guess, a little bit more creative with the site. Then, so this is right on the corner of Frome Street and North Terrace. So plenty of red brick happening there. See if I can scoot back just a little bit. Oh, where have I gone? Gone straight up Frome Road. Yeah, ran away from the building. Oh, we're in the Royal Adelaide Hospital site. Gee, we moved around pretty quickly. But okay, so that's the building we were in front of before. It's got the cheap eats and the IGA there. Then a bit more of a 1970s sort of brutalist style building adjacent. Lots of concrete and render on that. And then further along, we're getting into bit more red brick and
double click the move.
what's that? Double click to move.
So put you out to the road.
Yeah, and then scoot along the road. And then from there we've got some of these like historic type row houses again, similar to what we've got on the other side. And then larger institutional buildings. I think one might be the Masonic Hall, that one. And then across the road, of course, it's your North Terrace row of sandstone buildings and historic university buildings along there. So that's our context for the building, and we're going to have to be thinking about that context in thinking what we're going to be doing on site, how we're going to be cladding the building, how we're going to be treating the building, and how we're going to sell it to the council. So say this is what we're doing, this is what we're wanting to do. We want this to go past, get past, and to get past fairly quickly and easily. So some of the key things I think to be thinking about is certainly the plantings, the greenery, getting a lot of that happening on the site to tie in well with the Botanic Garden, Botanic Hotel, and also what's going to be happening on the Royal Adelaide Hospital site to link in with all of that, and then also the high-end materials that complement the surrounding development. So flicking back to our procedure document, so we've got that ground level showroom, level 1 open plan office for 20 staff. Also, when it comes to determining toilets within the NCC, if any, like, you're probably going to be bogged down currently with working. You're going to be a process similar to Project 2, where you started with the development plan, the local council development plan. You do task 1 and task 2, all the background research. Initially, you work your way through that, and then you start with your landscaping and your car parking. Get your car parking in, get that all sorted, and work your landscaping around that. That's the approach that I would take, and then I start doing all the sort of internal stuff from there. But if any of you were to be pushing ahead this week, when it comes to determining your toilets inside there, there's several different approaches. One approach is that you do a determination. You supply toilets by the number of people in that office, as per the table in the NCC. It says for this type of use you have this number of people. But there's also the clause in there that says unless there is a more accurate assessment of the number of people. And so you can actually say, well, look, we've got an office that's designed for 20 people. We have 5 individual offices at the top. We have estimates of the numbers of people, and then we can say, well, we've got this many staff in that lower area. It's a less frequently used in I would say it. Well, it's not high flows of people for our particular use. So determine your use and have an idea about that, and then you can actually use that to determine your estimate of the number of people and for doing those toilets as well. Because otherwise, it does actually get a bit crazy with the amount of toilets that you do have to supply for that if we're working through the NCC. So give you that. But we're going to have to be looking at disability access and fire safety compliance. So Richard, you probably would have worked through this one in compliance already, and much of that.
Yeah, as well, it's just fire.
Yeah. Did you do the toilets as per an estimate of number, or you did it by the table? Yeah, so by square metre. So you worked out square metres, and then yeah.
And then that's how many people are going to be coming through, and then also due to the amount of traffic. So depending on where it is and what the building is meant to be used for, you've got traffic that will be coming in off the street. That you've got your car parks, which then sort of limits the amount of people you can have, and then you transfer that with the square footage of the rooms, and it will give you a rough amount. You can sort of go from there.
Yeah. So you can go with that. But that does give you a lot of toilets, doesn't it? Going for the way. No, not onerous.
No, it wasn't that many. It was only I think it was only 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was harder for the men, of course, because you've got to have urinals and toilets, but of course their ratio is different. So I think the women's bathroom was slightly bigger with 4 toilets per or 4 stalls per.
Yeah.
And then the men's, but then of course you've got to have the disabled bathroom as well on the first floor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, just in previous experience with this one, with that Class 6D office, you end up having what ended up being a fair chunk of that space taken up with toilets, which, if you apply the method of an accurate estimate of those number of people, was a bit more functional in that space. So I'll give you both.
Theoretically, you want to have it as equal as possible amongst all 3 levels as well, because then that makes the toilet area central, all the plumbing and everything can be done a lot easier.
Yeah.
And tiling and that would be a lot cheaper to price up.
Yeah, because they're all the same. Yeah. Good point. So yeah, but enable you to take either of those approaches for that. So you've got your toilets sorted for that, and you've probably got your access and egress and everything worked out from that. So with compliance, did you have the same use of the building? You had
the only thing
retail
different
base
so far is the site. So we had, whereas the site, we've got the giant space and we've got to do landscaping and everything for this one.
Yep.
With the other one, we had a smaller space at the back, which we had to slam car park in and work out. They made us put it on a 45-degree angle, otherwise you know cars wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
That's the way we had to do it. It's the only way possible. So with this, it's just basically the front side's different. And the other thing we had to do in the other one was the top floor was originally offices, but then we had to convert it into apartments. And the middle floor, we had to convert the one giant room into many offices.
Right. Yeah. So there'll be some small differences to account for in that, but not a huge amount. So with this site, for us, I'll just show you on the sketch we've got here. Flick through to our site. Actually, this site may differ slightly on that, but primarily to keep the council happy and to work through a building that has a great connection to the area and has a bit of that sort of outdoor indoor connectivity and to maintain the clear space in front of that with attractive landscaping. It's much better to include much of the car parking at the back, as much of that car parking at the back as you can. And also to do that, you're going to have clear access down the side here for emergency services vehicles as well. So we're going to have to be keeping a distance there. So you have to be thinking about keeping that distance there and about working in with the existing plantings. When it comes to working in with the existing plantings, I'll go back to the Learn site there. So once you've, and it's much the same as Project 2, once you've worked through that quiz, then you're able to access this information. So we've got a Revit model here for the landscaping. That gives you your site and it gives you the trees on the site. So you get all that information by going through that. I suggest you do jump ahead and you do task 4 early, get that information. When we open up, or maybe we've got the Arborist report open already. Yeah, when we open up our Arborist report, we get indication of what trees are currently there on the site. The reason we're getting an Arborist report in is because with all of these trees on the site, it actually does become a little bit problematic in terms of being able to supply all of the car parking. But we don't, because trees and landscaping do take a long time to develop, it's not always a good idea, and they're expensive to remove as well. It's not always a good idea to go in there straight away, get rid of as many trees as possible. It's good to have a bit of planning and consideration, to have a look at what types of trees are there, whether they serve the function well, and what trees can be maintained.
So is that the existing?
What's that? So that's the existing.
So all of those trees.
So all of those trees are currently there. So we've got a mix of Tasmanian blue gums there, and then some honey locust trees as well. So the short of it is that these trees, and you read through the Arborist report, but that Arborist report will tell you whether those trees are allowed to be removed or not. That is actually quite important, because when it comes to trees, because not only the Adelaide City Council but the metropolitan councils in general are trying to maintain as many trees as possible, and they want, and yes, it's expensive and time consuming for them to be maintaining all of their own trees in the public land, and so they want as many private developments and private people to be maintaining as many trees as possible. One of those avenues is significant and regulated trees. So you've got both significant and regulated trees. Significant trees are trees of a certain girth. The rule of thumb is whether you can fit your arms around it, but everybody has different size arms. But there's actually a measure of the girth of the trunk, or of the sum of, if it's a multi-trunk tree, and it's about the measure of all those individual trunks. I think it's 1.7 metres or so around. But it's about that girth. So that's for significant trees. So significant trees you're not allowed to remove unless you have a report to say that tree is particularly dangerous to health also, or to the safety of individuals. So if that tree is diseased, if it's about to die, if it's about to be dropping limbs, things like that. If the arborist says, yes, that tree really should come out, well then you're allowed to go removing them on that basis. But not all trees are classified significant trees. Some of them are just regulated trees. So a regulated tree might be a type of tree that council says, we want you to remove that tree. Or it might also be a tree that they say, no, we want those trees to be retained. Either way, the arborist report can help with that as well. So have a look at this arborist report, see what it says, see whether that will allow you to get rid of those trees or not. But also just think about the trees and their location, and work that in with your car parking.
Is there a Revit plan?
Yes, there is. There is a Revit. Yeah. So that's the Revit landscaping plan. But we work through this arborist report to get an idea about what we can be doing with those trees, and then we look at the other species of trees to work out whether we can be removing those or not. That's going to be an important thing to work through with your car parking. And I suggest sort of starting on like we did on Project 2, starting on all the big stuff, and then move to all the stuff that doesn't have much in the way of spatial impacts. So that's your Project 2 Revit landscaping there. So to get an idea about, and I haven't opened it up, I'll just tell you about it. Won't show it. When you're going to look at your planning for Adelaide City Council on planning essay, you'll be opening up those planning maps. There's also little indicators on there showing significant trees, regulated trees, places of state heritage listing, places of local heritage listing. Have all of you seen those little indicators before on the plans? Some of you? Yeah, you've seen those? Richard, you haven't? I'll just take, or maybe then I should take a minute to open that up. So I'll head on to planning essay. And we'll get our development plans for Adelaide City. Yeah, take a little while to download that there. So I want our map reference for that. Going to be East Terrace area. Let's go 198. Start with that 198, and then see if that gives us a map reference. And then zoom, get that a bit larger. Plus. So just to, I guess, help you orientate a little bit. And yeah, and you remember, as I was speaking earlier on about, we've got policy area 13 and policy area 14, and then we've got this line that's happening here, and we have nothing happening in that space. So this is us here. This is Ayres House. We've got the Royal Adelaide Hospital across the road, and Ayres House right there. We've got that policy area 13 happening there. But then if we were to go to the next map across, it doesn't actually. Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Anyhow, if we were to go to that map number 51, just to cut long story short, it doesn't actually tell us what policy area that is in. But I think I found it somewhere else, buried somewhere else, that it is actually fits in under policy area 13. But I don't expect you to find that. Anyhow, what we can see on the site there is we've got a little triangle and a circle. Those little triangles and circles, they tell us things. If we scoot down that page a little bit to our legend there. So our circle, state heritage place, and our triangle is a significant tree. So according to the development plan, we do have a significant tree on that site. So your initial research, that's going to tell you about these things. So if you're looking at a property, you go, oh, that's got a really big gum tree on that property. Probably your first port of call to get that information. Just go to your development plan and say, look, see if there is a significant tree registered on that site. Also, of course, so we have to suspend belief a little bit in terms of that state heritage listing. Of course, you're not going to be able to demolish a state heritage listed building, and also we don't necessarily know which tree on that site is a significant tree. So we just have to go with the arborist report. But
Michael, about the significant tree, is that this development plan update every year or every 5 years? How long does it update? Because the tree will grow bigger and bigger. Maybe.
Really good point. I don't know when they update the maps, whether because it's an online thing, whether they're updating that continuously or not. I don't know. But it'll certainly be your first port of call for information, and then it's identified as a significant tree, and then you make that assessment. So is that tree still there? If the tree's not there anymore, well then you don't have a significant tree. If the tree is still there and was previously marked as a significant tree, chances are it will still be significant, and you have to have that discussion with council about that. But some other information from our legend, if I sneak down a bit, we've got also these dark dots, so they're local heritage place. So you have your different tiers of heritage listing. Your local heritage places are certainly less significant and less stringent in terms of your constraints. But if we look around this area, there's a whole lot of state heritage listed places in there, particularly along this side of North Terrace, where we've got the universities. And trying to think what buildings those ones are just off Brundle Street. I know those ones, there's a whole heap of 3-story row houses there. Can be interesting looking at those. So we've got on our site, we've got those significant trees. We're going to have to work through the process of determining whether we can remove those or not. So we start with our car parking, and then working that in with our trees. The other thing we can do in terms of our trees, if you want to push ahead with this, is looking for other plantings, other trees that we can put in that site, and thinking how that's going to work. One good plant selector I found is it's a plant selector put out by the Botanic Gardens, so the people right across the road, that enables you to put in sorry, back to, so you can choose what form of tree, what foliage, what flower cover, whether it's evergreen, deciduous, flower type, canopy shape, trunk, etc. So you can think, these are the sort of things I want in trees.
Is that a plant search based on what they have though?
No, that's a plant. That's based on what, all types of plants that are available that will grow in that area. So you put in the postcode. So for Adelaide, the postcode 5000 or 5001. So it'll say these trees will grow in that area, and then you get to choose what sort of trees you want for that. Whether you want understory, etc. Yeah, so just search for Plant Selector Botanical Gardens. Just go on to that. Does everybody here know the difference between evergreen and deciduous? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Deciduous, they lose their leaves in winter time. The thing about deciduous trees, they're really good on the northern side of a building. Summertime they block a lot of that sun. Wintertime they let a lot of that sun through. Can anybody think of problems with deciduous trees? Yeah, they drop leaves. So right near our site we've got that Paxton Walk going past. If we put a whole heap of deciduous trees along that edge, the council probably won't like that very much. They'll have a whole heap of leaf litter every year going onto that path, which may be a fall hazard, etc. It needs to be cleaned up, it clogged drains, all these sorts of things, right? And so they're going to be problematic there. They're also going to be problematic over top of car parks, etc. Because we'll be dropping leaves and things there, creating this very similar hazards and over paths, etc. around the building. But fantastic over lawned areas and green areas where you want to get a lot of sun in there during winter time, but you want to provide shade during summer. And for if you're going to be having some outdoor areas for the employees that work in that building, for them to have their lunches, things like that. So fantastic for that as well, for providing that shade and those communal spaces. Evergreen trees, really good on the western side of a building, because pretty much always on the western side of a building, you don't want to have that sun coming through. So yes, sometimes from the northwest, that's all right for winter time, getting the sun through, but on direct west, you want to have evergreen trees. Canopy shape is going to be important as well. And you'll see it within the development plan. Dig around, read around. You'll find sort of reference to ensuring that landscaping works in a way that aids in public safety, and it can do that if you think about the context of our site. We've got a lot of hotels and pubs and things like that are open till very late, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, etc. around that area, and people coming through there. What you don't want to be creating are shaded, dark, enclosed spaces where unregulated activities can be happening, to put it nicely. So, yeah. So there's all sorts of nefarious things that can go on. If you provide cover and spaces for that are conducive towards that, council don't want that, right? So they want to ensure that areas are well lit at night time, that people can see what's going on, that there is that opportunity for observance, from public observance of spaces. So what we don't want is trees that have their foliage right down to the ground. We probably want more of a canopy, things where that are open understory primarily. And beyond that, just lots of greenery. So I went to a talk recently about the greening of the metropolitan area, and one of the significant take-home messages from that is that if you enabled moisture to make its way into the ground, you significantly increase the speed at which your plants grow and their foliage and their canopy and the creation of those attractive spaces. One really good way of doing that is with permeable paving. So have paving. Does everybody know what permeable paving is? I know you do, Sarah.
No.
No? Richard, you do? Yeah. So for a couple of you, permeable paving is where you've got concrete pavers that have little triangles cut off, or they fit in a certain way to have little spaces open to the ground. So the majority of the area will be solid paving, but then there's all these tiny little spaces that happen about the place, and there's some interesting products and so on out there to create that permeability. It's about getting that stormwater runoff to actually soak into the ground. So thinking about that with your car park design and your paved areas is probably a really good thing to specify with this. And also there are other soil moisture recharge options whereby you have little things that divert stormwater into soakage trenches that are included in the ground and things like that. Have a look into that and play around with that if you wish, but it's by no means mandatory for this project. But thinking about that. Beyond that, that's probably about as much as you'll need to know to get you really going with the project, to get you thinking about the space and the interactions. And yeah, getting that happening. Are there any questions? Yeah, at this point.
Is the bluestone wall at the front of the property still retained?
I think yes, do retain that bluestone wall.
Is it actually on the plans though, or?
I don't know actually. I'll see if I can open. Well, I do have Revit on this computer. I'll see if I can open those plans. Might take me a little while to do that. It does give you the entrance and exit from the site.
Oh, so there is a cutout that's
Yes.
already our required width.
Yes.
So we can get from the back of the site.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to open it up.
I think if it's an old model, you sort of have to let it.
You have to upgrade it. Do you? You don't have a choice. You can't just open it up quickly.
Because you're on like a newer version of Revit.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, it's going to take us a little while, but I'm fairly sure that you do retain that bluestone wall and use those entrances and exits as been given. No. Oh. No, you can't.
There's no pre-existing site to be demolished. So can we bring it slightly forward to the right?
That's really good question. What's that? It's loaded, right? Yeah.
Because the only thing I'm thinking is like where's the entry to the?
So we've got entry here. I don't have an issue with you cutting another section in here to have an exit there, if you wish. As for repositioning the building.
Because I mean, isn't this tree already too close to the building to start off with?
Yeah, I think certainly. Yeah, I think that tree is a good one to get rid of, being so close to the building. Without having worked through that and anticipated that question, I'll say yes, you can move the building, you can relocate that on site, because it is a building to be built, it's not an existing building, so.
But we'd have to look up and follow the setbacks.
Yes, yeah, exactly, and also, and you've got to do your site analysis plan once again, whereby you're looking at the setbacks of all the other buildings in that location. So you're going to have to work within those setbacks, and look at what the council requires. Yeah, but I'll have to have a look at any ramifications for moving that building to see if there's anything that says no, you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So I'll work through that, but for now, just go with yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that, and to give us others? No. Okay. Oh, it does. Yeah. So I just noticed our elevation's a little bit off. We've got, that should actually be our north elevation there, and south. Look at that. Yeah. So things are a bit reversed in terms of our elevations on this model. I'm not sure why that is. Why that's the case. Any other any other questions in regards to that project and getting started with that? So we're starting with our car parking and landscaping, and moving into the building. Cool.